then what happens next will be at their feet. It is not the trade union movement to blame for what comes next.
Come next week, Friday, to the media gathered here this morning, to the parents, please keep your children at home. Schools will be devoid of teachers come next week, Friday.
Ecuador says temporary immigration rules brought in last week for Venezuelans will be because of fake IDs. Ecuador's Foreign Minister Jose Valencia says many countries require passports from migrants as a security measure. He also said it's not clear if Venezuelan migrants could be classed as refugees, but they can always fill out the paperwork. Argentina's currency continued to plunge even after President Mauricio Macri announced the IMF had agreed to bring forward payments in a massive bailout loan. And in a display of rising tensions, President of the Central Bank, Luis Cabral, imposed on the country thanks to the IMF loan. Favelas in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil have grown by over 3% is due to a declining economy and a lack of social housing policies from the government. And those are the headlines at this hour. For these and more stories, go to our website at telesurtv.net/English.
Hello, this is from Caracas and I'm Bray Gomez. We are at the Venezuelan National Library and on the educational mission.
And they had these expectations, the desire to study, to prepare, to bring a bit of sand to our territory.
Let's say that higher education until that moment was something elitist in Venezuela.
It was for a few, it wasn't for everyone, and the students were leaving from high school and spent a lot of time to enter the university system.
And then what was Commander Hugo Chavez's idea?
He said university education, as well as the rest of the educational system, can't be permitted for some and banned for others. It has to be inclusive. It has to include everyone. And from that moment, it arises what is known as the Sucre Mission. We started working at the Bolivarian University of Venezuela, but that university became very small because at the right moment that the educational system was going to open for all people, there was a demand so huge that it had to go to the territorial part, towards the municipalities, toward the parishes. Then also the president said the university system must be where people live so that people don't have to move so far away.
Taking into consideration, for example, the case of Caracas, where the distances are so long from one point to another.
Yes. The territorial part was very important. Then, in each parish of the municipality of the capital district, in this case, a university village was created.
What is a university village?
University villages are these spaces that during the day are schools, high schools, and during the night are university villages. We have several shifts: on the night shift from Monday to Friday, and on weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, in schools.
Reside.
Those interested
who are interested in studying these studies, for example, in the case of Caracas.
parish go down, but not only the people of La Vega, we also have people from El Paraíso, people from Antímano, from surrounding areas like Montalban, who go to these university villages with the purpose of training and obtaining a professionalization.
Now, how does that village work? Once the person arrives and says, I'm interested in enrolling in the study of modalities that you have, how do you proceed?
Well, they enroll in a depends. There are university villages that have, for example, as in the case of ours, we have administration, informatics, civil construction, environmental management, physical activity, and health and education.
All of them with
And once they finish the technician's degree, they are promoted to the universities that support the programs. Because the Sucre mission is endorsed by other universities that support these programs. What does that mean? That they issue these titles, certified education given to these students within the university villages, and continue engineering or licenses or other studies. Exactly at this time, the Bolivar University Venezuela is enrolling in diplomas, specializations, master doctorates. I mean, there is an incredible amount of study opportunities at this.
Now, going back to the Sucre mission story, you were telling me that this comes up as an idea of Commander Hugo Chavez. How was that idea received at the outset? How did the Bolivarian Revolution, let's say, recruit not only students but also teachers?
Imagine the impact that caused in the communities was amazing. Well, the very first week that the president gave all these statements, having said that the process of registration was open, that was something epic. A huge amount of students wanted to enter. Then the space they had, say, as first test, overstepped the demand. So that's went to school. Why? Because the president said this has to be local, it has to be municipal schools, it has to be in all communities. It was when we went to the schools and we started working in the schools, and there they created what we call and what they are today the university villages. College villages equal to a college with all the staff willing to work among them, professionals with an incredible ethic responsible for each of the curricular units that are given.
How is the teaching system structured in the university village? For instance, who works in the university village?
Well, all the professionals who want to enter the university system, they can do it. They make an interview, profile of each professional, and there is an evaluation. For example, a computer engineer, of course, is going to teach computing. An engineer in civil construction will teach civil construction. A bachelor in administration, an environmental manager, that depends on the profile of each one of them, of the professor.
Aside from the teaching faculty, the academic materials, books, notebooks, as well as the own facilities of the study, the utensils, the computers, who provides you with these materials?
Well, that's provided by the Sucre Mission Foundation.
Is it a government foundation?
Yes, it is attached to the Ministry of the Popular Power for University Education. Then the foundation provides us with all these inputs so that we can function within these villages. We have spaces within the villages provided by the daily school. It gives us some spaces for us to work, and the classrooms that are used in the shift, and well, they collaborate a lot with us in the sense that they give us that support, that helps, that we require so that people can be there in an appropriate way and they can comply with all that academic pensum demands.
I wonder that when Commander Chavez said that it was necessary for the university villages, for example, this extension of the Sucre mission, to be in the parishes and in places where students reside, he did it thinking about the contribution to the community the students could give their social context.
Of course, in one of the curricular units that the students work from start to finish in their training program is called Community Project. This community project is on a diagnosis of the needs that each community has and make the necessary contribution that these communities, once they conclude, leave the contribution to the community so that they can continue. For example, the management consistent, that they are not expired, that the accounting part adjusts to everything that is in the law, all that stuff. Computing students alike teach them to work with teams. Often communities do not fully know the computer system. They give them courses on how to get started on computer, then put everything in their community up to date.
So this is a contribution to the community since they are studying. They are already given certain contributions to the community that surrounds them.
Yes, to the communities, just that the communities protect the work and do not have weakness, but rather strength.
And how has that been received by the community? What does the parish say about the contribution that the university village gives?
Communities are always open to help. When the students of the Sucre mission arrive to apply for community work, they never say no, they say yes because they teach courses of leadership, courses of the same laws, of the law of the communal councils, of social controller, a number of laws that they sometimes do not know and that the institution leaves those contributions there. Communities are called to participate in educational processes because they also go to the university villages and see the work that is done, the development of that work. The communities also have to participate in that work, and it is, let's say, an exchange.
Those 14, you have been for years there. Throughout this decade of the Sucre mission, what obstacles have you faced?
En principio teníamos muchísimos inconvenientes en la escuela donde estábamos porque habían directores que no estaban de acuerdo con.
Well, in principle, we had many drawbacks in schools where we were because there were directors who did not agree with the educational process. But we were meeting, we were making them aware of it, we were telling the importance of the educational system, and well, through these discussions of those meetings that were held, we had much support from the directive campus.
Regardless, for no one is a secret that in Venezuela converge sectors that follow the Bolivarian Revolution and sectors that oppose the Bolivarian Revolution. What has been the response of the Venezuelan opposition to this social mission?
Pues nosotros, como ya bien te he dicho desde hace rato, la educación en la misión Sucre es incluyente. Quiere indicar que ahí yo no puedo dejar.
Well, as I have already said for a while, education in the Sucre mission is inclusive. That implies that I cannot fail to enroll a student there because he tells me he belongs to the opposition. But what we do when those students come to the villages, because we raise awareness, tell them that the importance for the educational system and for our country, that they incorporate and understand why. Because once they enter the educational system, we have curricular units like socio-critical formation and socio-political formation. We give workshops. We have some shares of formation where we give workshops of history as part of it through our teachers, through plays, through the cultural part. We also have composed groups within the communities. On the cultural side, we are making known to these communities than the people inside a university village who have different ways of thinking end up.
You mean the humanistic formation as part of the terror formation of the personality?
Damos, como te decía, aparte de los contenidos, damos otros contenidos. Todo el tiempo estamos en constante perfeccionamiento, estamos en constante.
Yes, as I was saying, apart from the contents, we're developing other contents. All the time we're in constant perfection. We are in constant professionalization of each one of them. We don't only stay with people in the classroom, we go further, advancing and giving workshops that help them even in their professional training. The fact of giving them leadership workshops on how to learn, how to do, all these kinds of things that are intertwining.
As part of the history of the Sucre mission, I imagine that there are also other missions that were created from the very beginning, from the very triumph of the Bolivar.
And the mission Rivas for the mission Sucre. What do we do to the students of Rivas to understand that the educational students of the Rivas mission?
The Rivas mission arrives to the high school. And what about the Robinson mission? Primary education. And the mission, known as I Can Do It and I Can Follow, was to literate Venezuelans.
Literate, yes, and of course the Sucre mission at the university level. First, technical college graduates in STEM training programs, and others come to graduates in different areas or engineers in different areas.
Now you told me that you were not satisfied, that they had to go on, keep moving, continue expanding, and expansion plans. What ideas do you have in the future?
We plan to continue to open more training programs that have to do with processes that we are currently experiencing, especially in the agricultural part, and the fishing part, and the production part.
Production in factories, for instance.
Yes, and we have training program called agricultural program. In this program, students are taught to sow, to work with the land, what is the healthiest part to produce certain products for some agricultural engineers.
We could then thank that phase, which is the so-called economic war.
The food part, we are
secret to the international audience that Venezuela has suffered moments of maximum tension through the violent street protests called rioting, the so-called guarimbas. How did the Sucre mission survive the rioting?
Where many people wanted to keep them, they didn't care to walk. They went to their university as if nothing had happened.
There is to say that the lectures were not interrupted.
No, never. The classes are never interrupted in the Sucre mission for no reason. It has to be something very, very strong that makes no one. But otherwise, you always see students at university villages. They have their schedules and complete all their activities. If there is one day that for any reason you cannot teach that class because the teacher comes on Saturdays, you come on Sundays and give it.
The lesson is restored.
Exactly.
Now I wonder that these university villages
knowledge are made once or twice a year. There are made bazaars where they give to know socio-productive projects that are in the with which they are being worked, and they are made invitations to the rest of the villages of the environment. They make invitations to the authorities of the Sucre mission to go and verify the scopes that have been taken in terms of educational processes.
Beyond the capital, what information have you received about that? What level of reception that has had the Sucre mission in the rest of the Venezuelan states?
Well, in the rest of the Venezuelan states, we have had a few difficulties, but they have been corrected.
What kind of difficulties, for instance?
For example, that there are villages that are a little bit far from the students. There are villages that do not have all the inputs, but as I say, we who are working in the Sucre mission work because we have ethics, because we like the work. We don't work only to get paid, but we work professional within each of the areas, and we see it every day in different jobs. We see now how there are judges working with the Supreme Court of Justice and are graduations of the state from the Sucre mission, and with very good educational system of the Sucre mission is high. It's an educational system of high quality, and that day by day we try to improve.
If I asked you how do you see the model of a professional graduate of the Sucre mission, what characteristics?
I'd say it's ethical, responsible, goes further. We try to instill that to the students. Do not stay with what you learn here. Keep on getting professionalized. Read a lot. Reading helps you. Get ready more. Do not stay with what people tell you. Research, be a researcher. That is one of the parts of the Sucre mission. Students are taught that important element, that is to be a researcher. Don't stay with what the teacher tells you in the classroom. Research and preparing.
As the Cuban hero Jose Marti would say, being cultivated is the only way to be free. Thank you very much, Severia, for this interview for teleSUR.